welcome to our, what is today, July 20th. I cannot believe it's July 20th already. But thank you so much for coming out this morning. When I sent out emails, I got a lot of bounce backs that there were a lot of people on vacation, so we really appreciate all of you coming in. We are a part of Neo LaunchNet, which I am a staff associate there. We also have a part with, we partner with the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, as well as Glide. So we're all glad that you're here. We hope you helped yourself to a cup of coffee and tea, and that is graciously donated every week by Dunkin' Donuts. So if you're ever over across the street from the college or in Cam's Corners or in Amherst, be sure to stop over and let them know at Dunkin' Donuts how much we appreciate this coffee. And as tired as I am this morning, I really appreciate it. So, you know, but this morning we have with us, oh gosh, I forgot your last name. Baldesare. Okay. Carl Baldesare is here from Keep It Local, Cleveland, and we've been wanting to have him, and we're so glad that he's been able to. And we're glad we have coffee since you have that 6-week-old at home. And
yes.
You know, did you get your 5 hours last night of sleep?
I did not. No.
Okay, so we're really glad you're here.
But about 3.
Okay, so he's come here today to talk to us about how to build a team, and I think that's a great topic for small businesses. So take it away, Carl.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning. All right. I've got some awesome notes. I got the call from Becky yesterday, so this is like, what do you want to talk about? I don't know. Okay. We'll come up with something. So I put together a quick bunch of notes, but really I'm more of an open forum type of speaker, so questions are fine. What I want to do, a little unorthodox, is kind of go around. I want to know who I'm talking to so that we can kind of gear the message towards you guys. So do you want to start?
We could do our networking at the beginning instead of the end.
Right. We'll just go real quick. It won't take much time. So just name and what you do.
Memory care.
Perfect. Wow, nice diverse group. I like it. All right. So real quick, Brenna is charged with the microphone. So if you guys have questions, make sure you give her time to come over with the microphone so they can get it all on the video for those that couldn't make it. Just to give you a little background on me, I'm the president, CEO, and founder of Keep It Local Cleveland. It's a for-profit community organization with a focus on small business and educating consumers on why shopping locally is important. I'm also the president of Small Spaces Cle, which builds tiny homes, partnered up with Packy Highland on that venture. And then I also own Specialty Renovations, which is a high-end renovation company. So I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. And I have multiple teams and multiple different types of businesses. So I have a little bit of experience with building teams. I've been a sales manager for financial services and banking and other ventures. So, you know, team building is one of those things that I've kind of made my thing. And that was how we came up with the topic, because Becky and I were talking on the phone yesterday trying to come up with a topic. And it seems like, from my experience as a financial advisor and team leader over there, that most of the closely held businesses I've worked with have two problems. One is getting customers and creating sales. The other one is building a team and retaining employees. There's thousands of books on how to create sales and go out and do that. And, you know, you guys can pick one, and I'm sure you can run with that particular system. But as far as hiring and choosing people to be part of your team, the waters are a little muddy there. So the first thing is, why should you hire people? You know, it's you and your husband at your shop there, so there's that next step where you really, you know, you need to realize why you need to hire people, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk about who would want to work for what you can afford to pay, because not all of us have a large bank account to dip into, and how do we entice people to come work for us, quality people, and not have, you know, that competitive salary that we might otherwise have if we were a larger business. When is a good time to hire people? This is like part one of being an entrepreneur is, okay, at what point do I say I need to hire somebody? And then what am I looking for with that person? And then how do I retain my employees once they start? So those are some of the topics I'm going to talk about today. We can go off script. I'm not really a scripted kind of guy, so if you guys have questions, we'd definitely answer those. But I just want to take a minute and go over some numbers with you so that you understand why your employees are so important to you. And these are the fun numbers. So there's 8,760 hours in a year. Okay, to be a successful entrepreneur, you're probably working 60 to 80 hours a week. Does that sound right? You know, somebody said once that entrepreneurs are the only people who will work an 80-hour work week to avoid a 40. You know, and I'm okay with that. At minimum, that's 3,120 hours a year, or 3,640 if you're going with that medium number there, that you'll spend working in your business. Assuming you sleep 7 hours a night, that's 2,555 hours a year. That means that out of the 8,760 hours in the year, you're at work for 3,640, you're sleeping for 2,555, and you're with your family for 2,565. So 40% of your time is spent at work, and 30% of your time is spent at home. And the goal is to create some sort of balance. So your work family is the one you're going to be spending the most time with, so it's vitally important that you get the right people in your business and working with you, okay? Your work family also dictates your lifestyle outside of your work family. So with your regular family, if you have good employees and they're taking care of things and you can trust them to do what they're supposed to do, you can enjoy your time with your family a little more. So these are some reasons why hiring is so important. Let's see. With a really good work family and a good bit of time, your battle between the two becomes easier. So the good news is you get to choose your work family, and there's different types of people that you would hire. So there's two different types of employees. There's your core team, and that's the one we're really going to focus on today, and then there's bodies. And there's a significant difference between the two. So sometimes you just need bodies. Great example, we've got the RNC going on right now. A lot of catering businesses just need people to help serve and do other things. These are employees that are generally unskilled and require minimal training. They're also easily replaced. Mentally, as business owners, they're usually part of your just day-to-day expenses. So I need a cashier at the register all day. That's just part of my normal operating expense. It's not the person who handles your books or your right hand or your managers. This is just somebody who's easily replaced. These type of employees are an integral part of the team and may surprise you from time to time, in which case you want to make them part of the larger team. But most of the time they're passersby in the grand picture. So those people, you just want to hire somebody who you can get along with long enough to get through the day, and somebody who can, fit the needs of your company. And those are easy people to hire when you're just trying to fill space. The core team, your managers, your assistant, team leaders, they're a little harder to come by. These are the people that require extensive training, and they're an invaluable part of your team. A good core team member may take 3 to 6 months to train and generally require a much larger investment to obtain. So these are the people that you have to decide as a business owner, this is somebody I need. And to get to that point, you really have to evaluate where you are in your business. Going back to the pizza business, just husband and wife. Right now, the next employee they're probably going to hire is going to be a body, right? Because if they can get somebody to man the cash register, they can have a date night, or if they can get somebody to run deliveries, they have an opportunity to do something as a couple instead of as a business team. But then there's other businesses out there where you've got your bodies in place and now you need somebody to help manage that team. Or there's a task that you do as a business owner that you're not really a big fan of, and it's not one of your strengths. So years ago, I was talking to an old timer, and we were just kind of shooting the breeze. And one of the things he said that stuck with me is hire your weaknesses. You always want to be able to identify where your shortfall is and hire somebody who's an extension of you that can fill that shortfall. So you can focus your time on what's important to you and what you're good at, which is growing your business or being on the back end or making cookies or whatever it is that you do. That's why you hire people. So how do we get to that point? Well, Monday morning we were having a meeting our team meeting at Keep It Local, and we were going over our tasks for the week, and I kind of laughed to myself, and I said out loud to the team, you know, this whole list that 7 people are now doing, I used to do all of that. I used to write the newsletter, I used to grab the content, I used to find the events, I used to staff the events, I used to go out and do sales. I did all of it. And at some point you have to say, okay, what can I start to take off? So early on with Keep It Local, the first thing I did was hire a part-time person to write the newsletter, because that wasn't my strength. It was supposed to come out every Tuesday. It usually came out on Thursday, if it came out at all. So that was job number 1. And as a brand new business, there wasn't a whole lot of money to work with. But I was able to obtain an expert in the field, somebody who has a background and actually a master's degree in literature, and hire her as the person who writes the newsletter. And I was able to do that because she was working part-time at another job that she didn't love. And I knew if I took her on part-time, we could segue into full-time. And that was the promise I made her. And that's how it went. So you can't always afford the top talent at a full-time level, but you can find top talent on a part-time level. And that sometimes can change the game for you. Just by having her take that little task of the newsletter over, freed up probably 5 or 6 hours during the week, because we have to collect content from all of our members, et cetera. 5 or 6 hours during the week, that's a lot of time, you know. Now I can focus on sales, and sales go up, and when sales go up, I can give her more hours, and then I can give her more responsibility, and next thing you know, she's a full-time assistant who's also doing the newsletter. And she loves her job. You know, these are things that just kind of happen naturally. But finding that person took 4 months, because you can't settle when you're hiring your core team. You have to hire people that you get along with. You have to hire people that you know will get along with the rest of your team. And you have to hire people that really can enhance what you're doing and do it for little to no pay so that you can increase your business. And then you pay them later, you know. You don't want to be the guy that's paying minimum wage, but you also don't want to be the person who's paying so much that you can't afford to eat as well, you know. And part of that, when you're in your early stage and it's time to hire people, is really looking at your situation first, because you are going to take a pay cut when you hire a core team member. It's just part of the deal. You know, as an entrepreneur, you're the last person to get the paycheck every week, right? I mean, I write 43 paychecks every pay period, and at the end of the day, whatever's left is what I get. And sometimes there's nothing left, and that's okay. You know, but without my team, I'd be nothing. So it's okay to take care of these people. Let's see. You guys have any questions so far? Yes.
You're trying to hit on, when I hire people, what I find is they don't like the insurance business, but where do you find a pool of people who have the passion?
That's a great question. So how do you hire? Matter of fact, this past week, we just started one of Brenna's friends. Brenna's our intern. So every couple months or so, I ask my employees if they have any friends who they think would be a good fit as part of the team. And in insurance, that's a tricky business. I used to sell insurance. The attrition rate is 1 in 10, right? So, yeah. I mean, it's a high turnover business, and what you need to do is find the people with a passion, especially in insurance. The hiring process is a little different, because you have to find somebody who's driven enough that they want to succeed themselves, and you kind of dangle that big paycheck in front of them, and then you have to teach them how to be passionate about what they're selling. So a lot of the times it's not the person that you're hiring, it's actually how you train them that really determines whether or not they're a good employee. So the hiring process that I go through when I'm hiring new team members, and this is all across the board, is I decide whether or not they're going to be a body or a core team member, and what I'm hiring for, obviously. And then I put an ad out on Indeed. I try to avoid the Craigslist. It just, if you're trying to fill bodies, that's one thing, but if you're looking for like true core team members, that's tricky. And then I network like crazy. You know, we can't afford to hire a headhunter to go out and find these people, and then they take X% of the salary, and I'm not knocking any headhunters. I think it's a fantastic occupation. But at the same time, when there's 3 employees, you know, you can't take that 20% hit or whatever they're taking to try and entice somebody to come over. So you have to find them on your own, and that's tough, you know. We've interviewed, before we hired Brenna's friend, we interviewed 63 people and didn't hire any of them. So you have to be selective. That's just how it goes. And we need sales reps. Like that's, you know, we're having a hiring event tomorrow. We're having from 10 to 7, doors are open. Anybody who wants to apply can come in and apply. And it's just a way to meet some people. And we put it out on social media. We extended it to our followers because those people are passionate about what we do, and they may know somebody who's looking for a job. And I'm going to sit there and interview probably 150 people tomorrow to hire 2 places. Yes? Wait for Brenna. Brenna.
You interviewed 63 people.
Yes.
So is that, do you see a flaw with your resume screening process? Because you've spent, 63 interviews is a lot of time. Is there a problem in your process in that you have to interview that many people, or is there an underlying theme of something that you're looking for in this candidate that you just couldn't find and you can't find it on a resume?
Yes. Resume screening, to me, depending on the job that you're trying to fill, doesn't give you the whole picture. And until I meet the person, I don't know if they're going to be a good fit for the team. Because I've met lots of people with strong resumes. I'm actually going to jump into this section real quick about the interviews as soon as I find it. There we go. Okay. So what makes a good team member? You know, team members think about the team first. And you can see that when you're talking to somebody, when you're interviewing them. There's a couple different types of people that we interview. And they all sound a little different. And you have to listen to really get that person there. So going back to the hiring process, yes, it takes some time, but I'd rather spend the time now before I make the investment than make the investment and find out it was a bad call. So when I'm hiring somebody, I really screen heavily in the in-person interview. And a couple different reasons for that. One, the people that leave my company leave because they have to move out of state or because somebody offered them a salary that's 4 times what we could pay, and it's in their field. And it usually is a tough decision for them. A great example is we had a girl who was working on our sales team last year and early into this year, and she was a food engineer. So her previous qualifications were engineering and food science, not sales, right? She was our top producer the entire time she was there. She was just a personable type of personality, and she was easy to talk to, and she was easily trained. So we were able to teach her everything she needed to know about how to go out and make the sales and retain the customers and keep everybody happy. She got a job offer from a company in Atlanta at the beginning of the year that she had applied for 2 years prior that was paying her $120,000 a year. And she came into my office and met with myself and the other management team, and she was crying. She didn't want to go. She said, I have this amazing opportunity in my field. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. They're actually creating the position for me, and they're going to pay me, a 6-figure salary, and I don't want to go. And we talked her into going because, her personal growth is important to us. And that's something that all of my team members know, is that their personal growth is important. But the fact that she was confused as to whether or not she should leave a job that's paying $40,000 a year to go take a job that's paying $120,000 in her field of study says that we did something right, right? So it's not always the resume screening. You know, some people want to change. Some people never got a shot. So I really want to meet with these people and see what their story is. And it doesn't take long. The initial screening, I can know within 5 minutes whether or not somebody's a good fit for the team, and then it takes about a half hour to really get to know them. And that's not that bad. But if I know in 5 minutes whether or not I'm going to hire somebody, it goes pretty quick going through 63 people. And it's something that we don't schedule like a whole day. This Thursday is a one-time thing. Usually they come in between meetings or something, and it's just a quick, interview. But the different types of people that you'll see in the interview, you'll get the one that tells you how great they are, how amazing all their achievements are. They'll tell you that they'll make you a lot of money. And, I've never actually had a good experience with anybody that tells me how great they are. As a matter of fact, every single person that's told me how great they were, I had to fire. So I avoid those people right out of the gate. And that's not to say that they can't talk about their accomplishments. There's a tone and a feeling that you get from somebody as to whether or not they're actually talking about their accomplishments because they're proud of themselves, or they're talking about their accomplishments to make you feel small. And those are the people you don't want to hire. The other type of person is the people who come in and they're going to follow the rules, they're going to be a great employee, and they're looking for a paycheck. They go over their resume, talk about each experience they've had, but they give you that canned answer on everything that they're doing. And they don't talk themselves up much, and they don't ask a whole lot of questions. Those aren't great people either, because they're just interested in a paycheck, and they're going to move on. The people you want to hire are the ones that come in there, talk very little about their resume, ask a lot of questions about your business, and deep questions. How'd you start it? Why'd you start it? What do you guys do here? It's just everything. The ones that are asking a million questions and the deep questions are the ones you want to hire. And I do a couple little tricks when I'm interviewing people. When we set up the interview, I give them specific instructions. Bring one copy of your cover letter, 2 copies of your resume, and a notepad. That's every person that comes in for an interview is asked to do that. And the ones that show up without the stuff I asked for don't get a shot because they're not trainable. Right? You have to do those little tests or you're going to make an investment in somebody that's not going to work out. And hiring a new employee, I don't know how much it costs you guys, but in my experience, between training them, paying them while they're being trained, and really getting the bugs worked out for these core employees, it can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000 to hire somebody. So you better make a right decision, right? So what are we looking for? You need to answer a couple questions. Are they going to fit in with the rest of your team? Will this person get along with that person? And you know your team that you work with every day, so you really need to know, it's kind of like, can this person play with my kids? Do I trust this person? And will I have a beer with this person? And if the answer, will I have a beer with this person, is no, I'm not going to spend 40% of my awake time with that person, right? I don't want to. They're moving on. I don't care what their skills are. I can train people. And that's the main thing that I think that the disconnect with how we hire is we look at the resume and we try to screen everybody and we really look for certain skills. And you do want certain skills. Like our girl that does the web stuff, she has to be good at web stuff, right? That's a skill we need to look for. But the rest of it, I can train her. Because our website's not like any other. It's not on a platform like any other. Our social media and the way we do it is completely different. And yours are too. The way you make pizza is different than the other one, otherwise you wouldn't have your own pizza shop, right? The way you guys do your job is going to be different than everybody else does it, or you wouldn't have it. So you have to train these people. And you have to realize that it's going to take 3 to 6 months to get that core person trained the way you need them to be trained. And that means that they're an extension of you, but their strengths are your weaknesses. Yes?
Back to what kind of pool are you pulling from? Are you just putting it out there, advertising online? You did mention that you use networking a lot. Do you, what percentage? Let's break it down. You're going to hire somebody today.
Okay.
How would you go out to do that?
The
What
first
pool
thing
are
I
you
do
looking
is
for?
take an ad out on Indeed, just like anybody else would. And it's the free ad. We don't have to get crazy with it because you're going to get a lot of people that just click on it just because they have to apply for a job, right? A lot of times they don't even answer the call. And it's funny because anytime I do those types of employment ads, Career Builder, Indeed, Craigslist, whatever, the percentage of people that actually show up for the interview from the people you call is relatively low. It's like 20%. So that's not the best place to get them. Most of the people that we hire are hired through friends and family or hired through friends of our network. So we hold networking events every month, just like you guys are having one here. And when we're there, we might mention that we're hiring. So your niece might be looking for a job. And you might say, hey, I was at this networking event the other day, and these guys, so maybe send a resume over and shoot me an email so I know to look for it. That's a fantastic pool to dive into, is your natural market. The other pool is using your existing employees. Their friends are probably good people because you hired those people and you assume they're good people and you've gotten to know them and you like them and you trust them. So if they recommend somebody to you, they're not going to recommend their bottom of the barrel friend. They're going to recommend their A-roll because their reputation relies on the people that they recommend, right? So that's another great pool to dip into. And the other one is the social media. Your followers are one of the greatest natural markets that you can tap into for hiring because they know what you're all about, and it's so easy to click the share button, right? I mean, we've all done it. You just click one little button, and their entire audience sees it. Social media is a great resource. Give you an idea of the reach in social media, and I don't want to make this a social media talk, but we have 30,000 followers on our social media that are all organic. We've built them naturally over time. And if we boost something like our hiring event, I think the total number of people that have seen it to date, we put it up 3 weeks ago, is over 500,000. People share it. So 500,000 people have seen this ad. Okay, great. For $100, that was worth it, right? And they're all going to show up. Whoever's going to show up on Thursday, we're just doing a quick initial interview. Do we like the way you look? Do you speak well? Can you hold a conversation? Did you follow instructions? If you said yes to all those, okay, you move on to the second round, then I'm actually going to spend some time with you and get to know you. But that first round, 5-10 minutes tops for that first round of interviews. And that's how we go about doing it. And it takes time. There's no magic potion to hire the right person. There's a lot of screening involved, The last thing you really want to look for when you're hiring somebody is, are they trainable? Is this somebody that you can spend time with and teach? And not only are they trainable, but are you able to train them? It goes both ways. You have to be able to train your team. So one of my businesses, I've teamed up with Packy Highland on it, and he and I have polar opposite views on management. He's very hands-on and very in-depth. He checks everybody's little things, dots all the I's, crosses all the T's. And I have a more trusting, open style of management. But I've learned a little bit from Packy in the short time that I've worked with him, and that is that you have to be very specific with people when you're training them. And what I mean by that is if you want your report to look a certain way, the more specific you are, the better job they're going to do, and the better they're going to feel about it. Brenna, great example. Before I met Packy, I was very vague. Just do it, right? And then they'd come back and they'd have to redo it 3 or 4 times. And again, now that everybody's trained, it's pretty easy to get stuff. But when I'm very specific about what I want, it's done faster and they show me stuff and they're proud of it, you know, because it's specific. So that was a big change in the way we train people. But you really have to spend some time, especially with your core group. It doesn't stop either. You know, I've got 2 people on my team at Keep It Local that are invaluable. Without them, I don't know what we would do. And I spend probably 2 hours a week with them, training them. And they've been with me for 2 years, you know. And then we've got the next rung, which would be Brenna and Katie. And those 2 are in charge of the day-to-day, you know, office operations, you could say. And, you know, Katie just started, what, about 4 or 5 months ago? I mean, she's nowhere near ready to be let alone, you know. But she's called the Office Ninja because she does so much. And she takes the initiative to do things, and she notices things. And, you know, she's a fantastic person to have on our team. And she's still in training. You know, so every week I meet with Katie for a couple hours and we go over what she did for the week and how she did it, how it looks. And, you know, like last week we were talking about fonts. I mean, when I say specific, font on the website is specific, right? We use a specific font for this particular page and we do it like this because. And you have to tell these people this stuff or they're not going to be good employees because they're trying to be you. They're trying to be that arm of you that does the website, right? So, yeah, that was that whole paragraph. Building a team does not stop at the interview, yada, yada. All right. When is a good time to hire? I know we're going back to the beginning here, but we kind of skipped over that one with the questions. So when is a good time to hire? And who are we trying to hire? What are we looking for? This is a question that's age-old. It goes back the beginning of time, you know. What task do you guys do on a day-to-day basis that you absolutely can't stand? And what task do you do on a day-to-day basis that eats up so much of your time because you don't understand how to do it, and there's somebody that does? Those are those questions when those come up, and you can answer them. And you can say, well, I'm spending 6 hours a week on a newsletter that should take an hour. I'm spending, you know, 5 hours a week updating social media when I could really do it. You can schedule that stuff. It takes 20 minutes, you know, if you know how to do it. But if you don't know how to do it, hire somebody who does. It's a small investment and it'll pay off, you know, but the core team isn't generally an income-producing employee. They're usually a time-producing employee. And time-producing employees are important because we only have so many hours that we're available. And the more time we spend doing things that we're not good at, the less time we have to do the things we are good at. And the reason we opened our business is because we had a passion and a skill. We took that passion and skill, lumped it together with our life savings, and threw it out there to the world and said, here, look what I did. And if we're not taking the time to work with that passion and skill and really hone it, and we're doing all the other ancillary stuff like the accounting or the whatever, pick something. I don't know what everybody's strengths and weaknesses are. That's when it's time to hire somebody. When you find yourself skipping sales meetings because you have to do the newsletter, it's time to hire somebody to do the newsletter, you know. And that's not an income-producing employee, and those are hard people to hire. Income-producing employees are easy to hire, especially when you're small. Income-producing employees, sales reps, you can pay them commission, right? Early on, we paid 100% straight commission. a matter of fact, Mark is one of the survivors from the commission-only pay structure to now a salary plus bonus. But income-producing employees are easy to hire because there's very little investment, right? In insurance, those are income-producing employees. So you can hire 50 of them, and if half of them work out, you're out a few hours, no big deal. If you hire somebody to do the training, and you hire enough people on the income-producing side, now all of a sudden your time's freed up to continue what you were doing. You know, there's different ways to look at it, but that's all individual businesses are going to be a little different. You know, in pizza, I don't know how you would have an income-producing employee, right? Yeah. So a lot of your employees are going to be bodies, but then you're still going to have some core team members that you really have to have. And those core team members are not fly-by-night people. These people are going to be your family for years. So you have to take some time to pick them, right? Any other questions? Wait for Brenna.
So when you were talking about, are your new hires trainable or coachable, how do you determine before you hire someone if they're trainable and coachable and if you are going to be able to coach them?
So part of that has to do with the personality that you're talking to. If in the initial interview you've established that you can have a beer with them and that they're probably going to get along with everybody else, you came in a little late, but one of the things I do is when I send out the invite to come in for the interview, I have a very specific list of things that I ask for. And if they show up with that specific list of things, that's a good indication that they might be trainable. The other thing I look at is on their resume, I try to see how many jobs they've held and how different those jobs were and how long they stayed at those jobs. Because that's another indication on how trainable they are. And that may sound a little weird, but somebody who was a paramedic and then a financial advisor and now he's in construction, they're probably pretty trainable, right? Because those are grossly different industries, and it's a whole different set of skills for each one. That tells me that they might be trained. Yes?
How does the duration of those jobs figure into your equation?
The duration of the jobs tells me how well they retain the knowledge. So if they were at multiple jobs for less than a year, each job, they're not trainable. But if they were at multiple jobs for more than a year, and you could see that there was some success or they got promoted or things happened throughout that job, then they are trainable. So that the resume can tell you some information about that, but it doesn't always tell you that. Yes?
So I have two things. First thing is, some people do really good in interviews. They kind of baffle you because then after you hire them, you're like, who is this person? Has that happened?
That can happen. That goes back to the types of people that you interview.
No, but I'm saying, has it happened to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where, the number one thing when you have a team of employees, especially a core team, and the people that generally are really good in interviews become very negative people very quickly once they start, those people need to go. Because negativity breeds negativity, and you can't have that on your team. So if there's any negativity at all in your office, it's time for that person to take a walk, because you don't have time.
My other
It's not worth
question
it.
was,
Yes.
when you do interviews, do you do group interviews, or are you the only one interviewing the person?
We don't do group interviews. I'm the only person that interviews, and I have my other core team members, my two managers. They will interview people for the initial interview, but the final interview is always me. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one writing the check, right? So, any other questions? Yes? Wait for-
Can you share a bit more about how you started with a commission-only salesperson?
Sure. Pretty much every job that I've had, or I shouldn't say every job, but every business that I've started, everybody starts off on a commission structure. And the reason for that is because when you're starting a business, the less you can invest into it, the more time you have and more resources you have to continue that investment when the business starts to do this. So the commission-only employees are very important. There's some legal stuff that you have to kind of do a little research on, depending on what type of employee. So in construction, with my construction employees, the commission that they would get is I would use them as a subcontractor. And I would say, this job is worth X amount. So if you're going to tile this bathroom, I'll pay you $600. Is that fair? Yes. Okay, here's a contract, sign that, and that's your commission. Because I know that I can work with that. Instead of paying them hourly, which in construction is a bad idea, because things take forever. I always have them bid out on the job. As far as sales employees go, you really have to figure out what your product is, what your profit margin is on that, and whether or not you can afford to pay somebody a commission on that profit margin. If you can't, it still may be worth it for short term to get them started. And it's kind of a, I think I end every interview that I hire somebody in is it's your job to lose. I'm not going to take the job away from you, but if you're not going to do it, you're not going to have it. And the commission only is great for that. Because when they say I'm not making enough money, you can say, whose fault is that? Right? Oh, right, okay. Go out and do your job. Right? But you have to segue them. You have to give them an out. You can't just hire somebody on 100% straight commission. Even if you're paying a really strong commission, that gets old after a while because sales are cyclical. We all know this. So you have to have a carrot that's there. So after 3 months of straight commission, if you hit these goals and these benchmarks, we're going to put you on salary. And once you're on salary, then it's salary plus commission, and your structure changes to this. And if that's laid out at the very beginning, it's pretty easy to get people to sign on for commission only, because then they have a goal and something to strive for, right? Does that, okay. Any other questions? Yes?
So with the thought of commission only in sales, do you invest a lot of training in that 3 months?
Yes, you have to. You have to, because if you're not actively training them once a week, they're going to feel like they're just there to make you money. If you're in it and actively training with them and going with them on appointments and helping them out and being with them and present with your team, the idea behind hiring somebody commission only to start is that's the training. So you have to be an active owner and be with them for a few weeks. And then after that 3 or 4 months, when they're in that training stage, you can start to taper off the amount of time you spend with them. And if their numbers start to fall, then you have to jump back in. Because you're in charge of their success, even though they're in charge of their success, right? Because they don't know your products, they don't know what you're selling. You really have to be active with these people. And that goes back any industry, even if you're selling widgets or pens, I don't know anything about this pen. It's blue, right? So somebody has to train me on all the cool features that this pen has, otherwise it's just a blue pen, right? And then you have to tell me how to show other people why this pen's important. And that's only done with experience and time, and that's why you have to be active with them. Any other questions? Nothing? Sure.
Building a success. A little bit about that.
So the question was different ages, male, female, different backgrounds. How do you get the whole team to meld together? That's an awesome question. That could be a whole talk. But the nuts and bolts is when you're in that interview process and you're asking yourself, is this person going to meld with the rest of the team? If they're going to get along with the rest of the team, that's a good start, and that's really where that process happens. But then building the culture in your office is on you. If you're not a likable, happy person, you need to be a likable, happy person in the office. Because again, the negativity breeds negativity, yada, yada. So in our office, we have a very good culture. Would you say, Mark? I don't know. Yeah. Brenna? Yeah. So it's somewhat casual, but at the same time, and I tell my team all the time how great they are, because I really do have the best team. Sometimes they're awesome. And they work hard. They usually go above and beyond, and they work hours as volunteers to get stuff done. When there's a task that needs to get done, we drop what we're doing, we get it done. And we all work together as a team. But every person in the team, and when you're building that culture, you have to let them know how valuable they are to you. Every person, right down the intern, invaluable. And Brenna knows that, right? Because we let her know all the time. And keeping everybody happy, I'll revert to construction on that one, because that's a little more rough and tumble group, right? Sometimes they'll argue over who's using the saw and who left a piece of wood on the saw, right? And you just have to be a manager and say, there's another one over there, works the same way. Go use that one, and dissolve the situation, and then take them out for beer, But you have to spend time with your team outside of work as well as inside of work, Today we're having a picnic when I get back to the office. We're just going to kind of sit outside and enjoy the weather and grill up some stuff and just eat, Tomorrow we've got the job fair, so it's all hands on deck. Everybody's going to be working their tail off. And then hopefully Friday afternoon, if everything goes as planned, we might take a little time off and go down to the park or something. You have to build that. This is your work family. Treat them like a family, You're going to have that crazy aunt. Everybody does. But that crazy aunt's still welcome in the family, right? You just have to know how to limit the amount of time that crazy aunt's exposed to the rest of the team. Okay. Any other questions? Nothing? All right. Well, that's all I have. So